Hello, everyone. I know, I've taken a bit longer than expected to get back to this. But here we are, the last half of Volume 9. And it's gonna be a rough finish. Episode 7 starts off with Jean trying to calm the chaos of the sewer slide stars, who Jean has named after everyone he knows.
Classic Ren.
You named them? After your teammates?
No, I named them after everybody.
Hello, I am the one called RWBY.
So Jean is clearly off his rocker from decades of isolation. The man clearly needs someone to talk to. Luckily, his friends are here to help him out, to ask him what is wrong. Or they could act annoyed that he gives them a schedule of the sewer slide stars' daily attempts to delete themselves. And stay silent when he has a little outburst. Fucking say something, do something, he's your fucking friend, you useless cows! Yes, they consider doing his list, but that doesn't make up for the complete lack of any attempt to try and help his deteriorated mental state. He clearly needs someone to talk to. We then learn that actually Jean is wrong about the tree and it doesn't kill you.
The great tree does not kill. That is what we keep trying to tell him. But our hero still insists that we never ascend.
Except Ascension is a form of death. Who you used to be is erased. Your purpose can be changed. And in C-197, your purpose defines who you are. So if who you used to be, memories and all, are now gone, that is dying. Especially from the perspective of a human, whose identity is based on one's soul and memory as far as we've seen on Remnant. You might as well be dead if it's reset. Of course, the girls don't see this perspective and confidently believe the sewer slide stars, despite it being stated that most residents of C-197 choose not to keep their memories of their past lives.
When Herb comes back, will he remember anything?
What would be the point of that?
You don't know how Ascension works, at least not fully, nor what the tree is. For all you know, the tree could be a malevolent entity like Jean believes it to be. Listening to the people who have their memories stripped away is fucking stupid. Now yes, this also goes for the opposite perspective, but the story is treating what the girls think is true. Even though the girls have spent less time in this world than Jean, nor do they have a fragile mental state that could exaggerate any pre-existing biases. Before the conversation can finish, the meth addict attacks. Of all the times to catch up with the moronics. Not when they were catching up in the flower tower thing, which was literally right next to the market. Not during their spat with Sonichu. Not after the cock-dupe storm spat them out. Not even during the night when they slept. Right now, when the characters are having an important discussion, is when the meth addicts enter back into the plot. How incredibly inconvenient. The moronics manage to fight them off, except for RWBY, as she is too busy having a PTSD attack. Oh man, I'm sure it'll be handled better, unlike the last time they did this. Anyways, the time fighting the meth addicts is enough time for the sewer slide stars to finally unsubscribe. As most of the girls are trying to comfort Jean, RWBY has the crash out that spawned a wave of glorious memes. Homophobic RWBY. The funniest thing to come out of this show in years. Fucking outstanding stuff. Memes aside, the actual crash out itself is, kinda shit.
I mean, why do I have to be the leader anyway?
You're the one who chose to continue being the leader after Beacon fell. You put that pressure on yourself.
Why do I have to always be the one to pick people up? What about me?
You're not? There was Oscar, Pyrrha, Jean, Crow, and Penny. That's 5 people, you dumb bitch.
No time, right? Gotta get home. Gotta help Jean. Gotta find someone who isn't just going to screw everything up.
Right. Because you didn't screw up at all, did you, bitch? You agreed with that retarded central hub bullshit, so don't go dumping blame onto Weiss for that. Even her snapping at the bumblefuck duo is kinda lame. RWBY just doesn't want to admit that the story has prioritized Blake and Yang's relationship over Yang and Ruby's. Sure, maybe the way she says it could be interpreted that way.
Good for you! By the way, we're all so happy for you!
But it kinda skirts around the issue rather than fully addressing it.
I'm sorry, is this a bad time? Are we supposed to be mourning Jean's make-believe friends?
The sewer slide stars were very much real. I don't know why even in an emotionally charged crash out that you'd imply that they were figments of Jean's cracking mental state. Naturally, Jean has had enough of this whinging.
They're gone because of you. The walkers came for you because Neo hates you. Oh, and let's not forget the reason we're in the Ever After in the first place is because of your plan that didn't work. What about you? It's all about you.
True and factual. Granted, he went along with that stupid plan, and this fact isn't brought up. However, at the end of the day, it was RWBY's plan. She shares a bulk of the blame. So, of course, Jean is the one who has to apologize. Once again, cutting off any important discussion about the events of Volume 8. So yeah, this entire crash out is fucking stupid. And before any troglodytes tell me that RWBY is being irrational and that I lack media literacy, the irrationality is how RWBY is stating these things. The writers fully believe in some of the things she is saying, like RWBY being the one who picks people up when she's hardly ever done it. There's also the fact that her crash out is presented as far more valid than Jean's, despite Jean's having better points to address. RWBY isn't cut off or told to stop. She gets slight pushback from Yang, but that's about it. Jean is the only one to push back against her, and he's the one who has to stop and apologize before we can get any meaningful conversation about the consequences of their actions. Again. RWBY then fucks off into the forest and has a further breakdown, acknowledging her role in the fall of Atlas and how she treated her friends during her crash out.
I promised to serve Atlas as a huntress. That I'd keep people safe. That I'd be there for my friends.
You know, you actually need to do something meaningful with the fall of Atlas. Just bringing it up isn't enough. I've hammered it in before and will continue to do so. We need to have a full conversation about Atlas if it's going to be a sticking point for RWBY's mental state. RWBY tells Baggage to piss off and she aimlessly wanders around until she comes across a house, which she decides to go into. Yes, enter the random house in the middle of nowhere in the hell world that is C-197, you brick of a teenage pancake. Turns out the house she entered is Neo's. Can you stop being a contrived mess for 5 minutes? RWBY wandered around with no clear direction and just so happened to find the exact house where Neo is. What if RWBY sped off in the opposite direction? What if she didn't run off at all? Well, the upcoming sequence of events can't happen. Neo decides to break RWBY with all of the people she supposedly let down, which if that's the case, why are Leo and Clover here? Leo died to his own choices and Clover got fucked over by Robin and Crow, which led to Tyrion killing him. She barely shared any screen time with either of them. If anyone from the Aesops should be here, it's Harriet. She was the one who personally trained with RWBY. Actually, if Neo wants to break RWBY, why did she clearly order the meth addicts to kill her? One of them was going to eat her just last episode, and the dialogue of the illusions imply Neo knows about RWBY's current mental state.
How many more people are going to die because of you?
And yet with all your best intentions, have you ever stopped to wonder if you've done more harm than good?
Which, if that's the case, then fucking how? Was her hesitation to fight in the last episode a clue? If that's the case, then how did Neo get that information? Was she actually disguised as one of the meth addicts, or was that just another illusion? Personally, I interpreted that as a taunt. Can she see things through her illusions? That's not made fucking apparent at all because Neo's abilities at this point are whatever the plot needs them to be. And no one fucking tell me she overheard RWBY's crash out or conversation with Baggage because that shit isn't stated or implied at all. The spotlights while RWBY is wandering around didn't start happening until after she left Baggage behind. And that's assuming the spotlights are an indicator of Neo and not just an aesthetic choice. So, unless Neo's plan just so happened to line up with RWBY's current emotional state, which is still contrived horseshit, Neo knows about what RWBY is going through. which is information she has no reason to have, making the big emotional moment of RWBY taking herself off the population list fall completely on its face. Sonichu knocks the shit out of Neo, and it's revealed he was a secret villain all along.
I have been trying to wear you down for so long.
Since fucking when? All you've done is be a vague asshole the entire time you were with them. You didn't do dick to wear her down. Unless you were just trying to annoy her with your constant spouting of horse shit.
When a poor little heart is broken, I can fill it with mine.
So I guess that rando in episode 5 had a broken heart. Well, that's not how you put it.
What's he doing here?
I gave him something new to do for the moment.
That implies just straight up mind control. Unless that was also a lie, but there's no reason to lie in that situation. So I'm just left feeling fucking confused. Before Sonichu can penetrate into a teenage girl, Baggage bites his tail and then gets bitch slapped by Neo, who then crushes Baggage. That is her entire contribution to the story. Her purpose was to die for both hollow shock value and be the final blow that pushes RWBY off the edge. She contributed nothing of real worth besides that. Good riddance, you useless muroid. The other moronics show up and just stand there as RWBY uninstalls from life. They don't run up to see if she's okay. They don't attack Neo, who is standing over RWBY. None of them do anything to stop her from drinking the tea. Because it's a bit strange that someone who was clearly beaten up would drink a random cup of tea. Seems a bit out of place if you ask me. But even if we let that slide, still fucking weird none of them even bother to check on RWBY's wounds, especially the guy who can heal people, and most certainly the sister who supposedly loves RWBY. Just another example of Yang being a shit-ass sister. Sonichu then successfully penetrates into Neo because now that RWBY is gone, she apparently has nothing else to live for, even though Cinder betrayed her and is also part of why Roman is dead. But we're just gonna forget about that. This is apparently considered the best or one of the best episodes of Volume 9, and I have to ask, can I get the number to your dealer? Because you're smoking some strong shit and I need some of it right now. Just a little warning, this next episode is gonna get me a bit heated. So, the Moronics arrive back at the Sewer Slide Star Village, and they've become rock people that are in the shape of stars, and their purpose is the exact same thing as it was before, which I know was brought up that their bodies were too fragile and they wanted stronger ones.
But we have realized that, like ourselves, it is also very delicate. We would like to make something that is pleasing, but also resilient. Because of this, we are ready to leave ourselves and merge with the tree.
But that just raises questions of how did any of these stupid things survive this long if their bodies were really fragile? Why were they made this fragile to begin with if their purpose is making the land look better? Something that requires a lot of labor. I guess the tree has a sense of humor? Who knows? Who cares? We barely know anything about these fucking abominations, so, like, just accept it, idiot.
It's just like they said. They came back from the tree better.
Guys, you really don't want to go down this road. You really don't want to present a group of people becoming better after they deleted themselves. Just stop here, and we'll chalk it up to a strange but isolated moment of not thinking something through. Upon seeing this, Jean has some interesting thoughts about his need to save the original Sewer Slide Stars.
By trying so hard to save them, I stopped them from becoming what they needed to be. I was being selfish because I wanted the rush of rescuing someone. And I got that here.
Are you mildly retarded?
That is not at all what you guys were implying. Jean's need to save them stemmed from his own mental trauma, living with the fact that he had to kill Penny to keep the Maiden Powers out of Cinder's hands. You could maybe argue it was selfish, but it wasn't as simple as chasing a fucking dopamine hit, and making it that is fucking disgusting when you think about it. Rather than an overcorrection to try and make up for what he considered a massive failure, He was chasing the high of being a hero, sweeping all of that survivor's guilt and trauma brought upon by isolation and ruminating on that failure under the rug for the most simplistic horse shit imaginable. Honestly, go fuck yourselves with this one. But we're not done yet, because Weiss says one of the most retarded things in this show's history. And I mean it 100%, no hyperbole. This is a contender for dumbest things said in this show's history. And that is truly an accomplishment, given all of the stupid shit that has been said contending for that top spot.
I think you're asking too much of yourself. We've been telling ourselves that failing means we're no good. But I can guarantee even the best huntsmen in history, they've all lost. But they were still incredibly brave.
2 cities are gone, Weiss! An entire nation and its resources are gone. Salem has 2 of the relics. Your leader contributed to the events that led to it by lying her ass off. You cannot treat these things as just ordinary mistakes. The world is objectively worse off partly because of you fucking clowns. You cannot brush that off. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Oh, and your leader just Alt F4'd themselves from existence like 10 minutes ago, and you don't even fucking care. Yeah, she'll come back, but possibly as a different person with none of her memories. Which again, from a human perspective, is a form of death. The fact that she even Alt F4'd herself in the first place should be enough to instill a level of panic that watching badly rendered water wouldn't quell. Oh, but if they didn't accept their fuck-ups, they wouldn't have been teleported to the fucking tree and find RWBY.
This is how we got here, or why the tree brought us here. Acceptance.
We've done everything we can. Now it's up to RWBY.
Thank you for telling us what the scene of the characters accepting their failures and being transported to the tree meant. I really needed that spelled out like I'm a fucking dementia patient. Also, you fucks did jack shit to help RWBY. You didn't try to help her in the last episode, and you were completely oblivious to her obviously poor emotional state throughout the entire season. You guys are the shittiest friends. RWBY wakes up in another dimension where she meets the blacksmith from episode 5. We don't really get much here, so I don't have anything to say. The rest of the Moronics hear Neo Sonichu trying to escape, but because Neo has no more connection to Remnant, he can't get through the portal. This is where we learn about what happened to Alex. She made a promise to Sonichu that she'd help him escape C-197, but she broke it, so Sonichu killed her. You guys are really overcompensating on making him a twist villain. Back with RWBY, and the blacksmith offers her the chance to be anyone she wants. You better keep this in mind, because boy am I not done with it yet. The Moronics managed to drive Sonichu out of Neo's body by getting him to inhale the burning fumes of the tree leaves. Why he didn't know this would harm the body he's in is strange. Even stranger is how powerful he is. Sonichu was shitting himself when confronted with the meth addict in episode 5. But not only can he use energy attacks, but he's able to fight off the same people who curb stomp the meth addicts. Or was his fear of them all part of his dumbass plan too? Anyways, I'll get into Sonichu in the conclusion. It's time for RWBY's choice. And I will admit, there are some pretty sensible and even interesting ones. RWBY could choose to be herself, but understands she can only be enough if she owns up to her mistakes and faces the consequences of them. Or, and this is the most interesting option with the most potential, RWBY decides to be someone else who is enough, who could face the consequences of her mistakes. The first option may be a bit standard, but it is a logical conclusion to what she's been going through, taking responsibility for her actions that she's been running from and partly blaming others for, and understanding that wallowing in the guilt of those actions is cowardice, that it solves nothing. The second option plays into the tragedy of getting children to fight in the war against Salem, that even the most capable and optimistic individuals can be beaten and broken down by it all to the point where they give up. It opens up immense possibilities for interactions and dilemmas in the future. Or RWBY could say she was always enough and revert back to the same person she was prior to Volume 9. Take a guess which one they chose.
What happens if I choose me?
Then maybe that girl is enough.
But you showed us she wasn't. RWBY cracked under the pressure of her own mistakes. She couldn't handle the consequences of her actions. She wasn't good enough to shoulder her burdens. Call me an insensitive jackass, and maybe I am, but it's the truth. RWBY gave up. People die in war. Mistakes can have disastrous consequences. If you can't handle every aspect of the job, then you aren't good enough. Point to Neo all you want, but RWBY was already cracking before that. Neo just pushed her over the edge that she likely would have jumped off eventually. You can't just ignore all of this. It's the reason RWBY is here to begin with. This is the conclusion to RWBY's arc, if you can even call it that. It cannot work unless everything is taken into account, which lessens the impact of her choice to that of a diarrhea-laced fart. RWBY then comes back, completely reset to her default settings, which somehow makes her stronger than the other moronics as she starts dog-walking Sonichu. The same Sonichu that was embarrassing the moronics just 5 minutes earlier. Then those same individuals that were getting dumpstered on completely reverse the situation, despite the only thing being different is that RWBY is now here. Also, where the fuck was this team move last season against Cinder? Where the fuck was this level of teamwork 5 minutes ago? Whatever, Sonichu is then eaten by a group of Neo's meth addicts. Given what we learn about him in a few minutes, this is kind of a bad thing. Speaking of Neo, apparently according to Carrie, this scene right here is RWBY forgiving Neo. Which doesn't really make any sense because what good has RWBY ever seen in Neo? Then the show has the audacity, the absolute fucking gall, to not only try and get us to feel sad for this mute psychopath, but then give her a chance to ascend. Are you actually pissing me? Hazel and Emerald's redemptions were dog shit, but they at least did good things. Neo has done nothing but assist in Salem's plots or done some truly heinous shit like, oh, I don't know, 2 episodes ago when she tortured RWBY to fucking uninstall. Granted, this inconsistent moral standard is nothing new. It's been here since the Yellow trailer, but this is just a fucking new level. What makes Neo so different from someone like Adam? That Neo's hatred for RWBY stemmed from her love of Roman? The same Roman who was a complete piece of shit that assisted in the fall of Beacon and was happy to watch everything burn? The same Roman who was a clear racist and general misanthrope?
Man, animals, every one of them. We're not exactly the most inconspicuous bunch of thieves at the moment, so why don't you animals try to pick up the pace? Now, I'll be the first to admit, humans are the worst.
Loving a piece of shit doesn't change the fact that they're a piece of shit. Adam at least was treated how he was presented for the most part. A psychotic, pathetic, power-hungry, cartoonishly evil ex-boyfriend. Yeah, the brand was a last-minute attempt to get some sympathy points out of you, but it served more as an understanding as to why he is the way he is. It was horrendously and embarrassingly executed, mind you, but you were never meant to feel sorry for the fucker or want any redemption for him. He was a piece of shit through and through and died like one. Neo's preferential treatment is simply because she's a very popular and well-loved character due to her being a cute anime waifu. Because let's be real, if it were Adam in her place, things would play out very differently. No redemption, no forgiveness, he would probably just get eaten by the meth addicts and not ascend. Fret not though, Baggage has been reborn as this unholy abomination.
Well, to me, you seem like a friend.
A guide. A protector. Adorable.
What a fucking liar, dude. What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude.
I mean, most of that is a fucking lie. The model is hideous, she failed as a guide, and failed to save RWBY. The only thing true here is that she was a friend. The moronics then go through the gate and meet up with the blacksmith for one last exposition dump. because we can't just end this fucking retarded nonsense of a season. Basically, the brothers created things in C-197, including Sonichu, then they fucked off, which made Sonichu big mad, and why the fuck am I even recapping this? It's fucking pointless. None of it fucking matters because C-197 won't matter. The brothers' origins have no bearing on their ultimatum, which is what matters. This is just fucking filler bullshit. The only thing you could argue that's of worth is Sonichu's role with Ascension, and now that he's dead, this world's kinda worse off. What the fuck are you doing, guys? I'm not even getting into the retarded mechanics of it. Just the sheer gall of stripping away every single fucking thing that could be considered consequential. The Moronics finally leave this complete fucking shithole and arrive in Vacuo, seeing a bunch of ships hovering over it, and we're done. Finally fucking done. Where to even start with this conclusion? I suppose we could talk about C-197, a horrifying, nonsensical nightmare hell world, where weather responds to your emotional state, except when it doesn't. Emotions, concepts, and gestures are currency. Don't ask how one can fill a jar with hope or how hugs are considered valuable. Just nod and accept. There are fruit that can send you back in time. Storms that can trap you in a physical manifestation of a personal issue. None of these things actually do anything to make this a believable world, because these things only exist to serve the plot. The poop dupe storm only exists for Bumblefuck and to drive Sonichu away. The auction is just a way for the Moronics to get to Chris-chan. We never actually get to see how one can pay with a concept. We never see why a hug is considered valuable despite it essentially being infinite currency in this world. The time fruit is never even shown or brought up again. Its purpose for existing is never explained or implied. Even the tree, the one thing you could argue somewhat coherently connects with this world, has these issues. Why is it that acceptance teleports one to the tree? It's not a place you go, it's a place you know, doesn't tell me shit. It doesn't give me anything to infer as to why the Moronics are taken to the tree after realizing they're all giant fucking failures. Why can the tree create portals to different universes? Because the plot needs a way for the Moronics to go home. Ascension is the most coherent aspect of this world because at the very least it has rules. However, those rules don't have much in terms of limitations. Could you choose to come back as powerful as the gods? If you made your purpose to kill Salem, would that give you the ability to actually kill her? The sewer slide stars gained the ability to create sturdier things, so reasonably one's abilities could match their purpose. You can leave a part of yourself behind to completely revert decades of aging. How exactly can you leave parts of yourself behind? And how is it that those parts can have their own purpose? They just can. Don't ask questions. Why does the blacksmith allow the meth addict to exist? If she values balance, then shouldn't she have gotten rid of it since it stops individuals from ascending, thus throwing off the balance in this world? Hell, wouldn't someone have ascended and made it their purpose to kill it by this point? Do plants ascend? Can they choose a new purpose, or do they just die? Actually, going back to balance, wouldn't the clock fruit throw balance off? Like someone could accidentally change something important in the past, thus fucking over the future? But the most egregious thing about Ascension is that it offers an infinite respawn point. If any of the Moronics die during the chess fight, they can go to the tree and come back as themselves. The tree can then open a portal to where they once were and send them back. There is no implied limit to how many times this can happen. So anything even resembling a consequence to dying in any form is gone unless they're eaten by the meth addict. But they're such pushovers that it doesn't even matter. So yeah, the world building is pretty bad. But considering that Remnant's world building is also piss, that shouldn't be too surprising. The plot is formed upon convenience and contrivance, which I like to think I've demonstrated over both parts, so I'll simply move on to the characters, some of which won't take long to cover. Baggage contributes nothing of value and then dies. The story can try to say otherwise all at once, but it doesn't change anything. Weiss simply exists, questioning the nature of C-197 before being punished, because how dare she point out how retarded this world is. which is a damn shame because if anyone would be vocal about what happened to Atlas, it would be her. It was her home. She should be wanting to talk about what happened more than any of them. Instead, she's just there, occasionally saying and doing things, but ultimately contributing nothing of value. Blake and Yang are gay now. And that's it. Moving on. Sonichu is a strange one. Before episode 8, he's fine, I guess. Annoying and needlessly vague, but he was mostly consistent. Then it's revealed he's been trying to break RWBY down so he can take over her body and escape C-197, which is not apparent at all. The only thing you could argue is when the Moronics go to see the drug dealer and RWBY has to face herself. But that ignores the fact that Sonichu fucked off for a bit. Other than that, Sonichu doesn't really do anything that one could interpret as trying to break down RWBY or really any villainous acts before episode 8. He just becomes a cartoon villain to only be jobbed out completely when the plot needs him to. And I guess it's fitting we get to Neo next. I don't even know where to start with this one. The plot completely bends around her. Every single thing she needs for her plan to break RWBY, she gets through sheer convenience with no input of her own. Her semblance upgrades the second she lands for reasons undefined. Her house is within a short distance from the sewer slide star village. RWBY makes her way to said house without any influence from Neo. If RWBY does anything different, including just running off in a different direction, her plan can't work. It doesn't help that Neo still isn't much of a character. They try to cram in some horse shit about her wanting the level of connection the Moronics have, but not enough time is spent on justifying it. She doesn't earn RWBY's forgiveness nor her ascension into a possibly better person. There is no development, no reflection on her actions, no remorse, nothing. Then again, Neo is now so overpowered she kinda has to become a different person because her semblance can copy basically anything now, even the meth addict's ability to remove people from the cycle of ascension. But what else should we expect from a character that was added at the last minute, unknown to everyone else, because no one could simply tell Monty, no, that is not a good idea, please do not do that. A character whose entire appeal was, is, and shall always be purely aesthetic. A character that RWBY spent no time or effort into even after they brought her back. Jean. Oh boy, Jean. There's a lot to discuss. On a positive note, there's a lot to work with here. A man suffering from survivor's guilt trying to cling on to the barest sense of hope while his mental faculties are constantly eroded by decades of isolation. Living with the fact he had to kill Penny to ensure the maiden powers didn't go to Cinder. This is a gold mine of material. Of course, it is completely squandered. None of the Moronics try and talk with him about it. They had plenty of opportunities to, and they treated him like a crazy old man. And yes, I know he pretty much is, but this is their friend who is clearly suffering. We hardly get his perspective on what happened with Atlas because the second he brings up that RWBY played a substantial role in where they are, he immediately drops it and apologizes. Perhaps he would have a deep resentment towards RWBY after all these years in C-197. A resentment that breaks their friendship. One that cannot be repaired. But no, everything is just swept under the rug once they all accept and trivialize what happened to Atlas. And of course, let's not forget how Jean ended up this way in the first place. But this botching of how trauma and guilt can affect a person is nothing new for RWBY, especially Jean. The way they handled his guilt with Pyrrha was abysmal. Dumping trauma onto a character doesn't mean shit if you're not going to do anything with it. And now we come to the main character. The one which this season revolves around. The one character this season sets out to finally develop. Ruby Rose. And to say it failed is an understatement. Volume 9 poses the question, is Ruby Rose good enough? She is confronted with harsh truths and the weight of the consequences of her actions. So, one would think that there would be some kind of response. A full acknowledgement of the ramifications of her actions, learning to accept the harsh reality that everyone is in their current situation partly because of her plan. things that could shift her perspective, or even becoming someone who could shoulder the responsibility of saving the world. What we got instead is a complete shrugging off of what happened in Atlas and the Void. A reaffirmation that RWBY was good enough as she was. The same RWBY who is responsible for Atlas's fall. The person who is at least partly responsible for the Moronics being here. The same person whose plan led to Salem getting 2 of the relics and is now closer to destroying the world. The same person who couldn't handle the pressure of the job and gave up in the most definitive way possible is somehow good enough to save the world. Nothing of value is learned, it's entirely circular. Which honestly wouldn't be a problem if RWBY returned to her static nature if what she went through didn't necessitate a change. Think of all the shit she's been through and seen. Friends dead, kingdoms in ruin, and the world is somehow on the brink of destruction due to her actions. That would give anyone at least a different perspective on things. I'm not even saying RWBY needs to ascend and become a different person. She can stay mostly the same, but something needs to shift. A response to all that she's gone through. This resetting to her default state comes across as, once again, a shirking of consequences. And it's a damn shame because there was some promising possibilities with RWBY this season. But as with everything in RWBY, loads of potential set on fire by people who couldn't even write a coherent porn scene. And while the concept of consequences is fresh in our mind, what were the consequences of Volume 9? Did anything of value happen? Well, any and all meaningful conversations about Atlas were cut off by the plot. Jean was restored back to his original age. RWBY was completely reset and revived. Everyone just swept what happened to Atlas under the rug because everyone fails, don't you know? So, none, really. The only thing of consequence to Volume 9 is Blake and Yang are now smashing cloacas and Neo is effectively dead. The former being something that has no real effect on anything because, let's be honest, Bumblefuck was really all they were since Volume 7. And while the latter is at least something, Neo's only important contributions to the plot you can count on one hand. Sure, she might come back and be more important later, but if that's the biggest contributions to 10 episodes worth of content, the possibility a character might return and do something, then your season of television was a waste of fucking time. And no, bringing up what happened to Atlas is not the same as actually talking about it. An actual conversation is needed. The most has ever done with it is when the basic points are brought up in episode 6 and RWBY crashing out about it in episode 8. But talking about it would mean having to confront the fact that some of your characters are wrong. It might mean giving the girls differing perspectives that might damage their friendship. But no, the hive mind must stay intact, so we'll just say everyone makes mistakes and have that be the end of it. Wonderful storytelling. Then there's the giant paleo mastodon in the room. This season's weird relationship with deleting oneself from the population. Every single character that does it either benefits from it or will eventually. I know that was never the intention before anyone starts spurking out about it, but that doesn't change the fact that multiple characters got better from clocking out. And this isn't even the only gross thing they unintentionally wrote. The treatment of trauma and mental instability is, questionable, to put it lightly. Both Jean and RWBY kind of just get over everything, RWBY especially being really bad, because Jean at least had some level of control over it, even if it was small. RWBY let it completely take her over, and it's just fucking gone when she comes back. Not a mention of it at all. She was tortured into speedrunning life and forgives the person who put her through that. The story itself forgives Neo. What the fuck is actually wrong with you people? And we're done. We are finally done. Thank you all for joining me on this mind-numbingly stupid journey. If you've made it this far into the video, please check out my other stuff. I do make things outside of RWBY content. I made a critique of the story mode of WWE 2K25. I'd very much appreciate you watching it. I'm actually kind of proud of that video. That's all for now. Until next time.